All right, hey everybody, it's me, Sean Waters, and welcome to another edition of I Guess There's Never Enough Books, which this is a very special edition because it's the second time that I have shared with you my writing process around the fact that I'm writing a book. I've started on manuscripts before. I have 4 manuscripts going that are in different outline phases. I had a not self-help book, a Buddhist approach to finally getting over yourself and living a good life. Another book called Shh, a manifesto for listening. And then the Writing the Good Life manuscript. That's basically the course of Writing the Good Life converted into a book. And my master's thesis in Buddhism, which is metaphysics, epistemology, and depression, which is about comparative epistemological approaches to mental health. But this is the first book that I am seeing materialize, and it's this perma happiness handbook. It's almost like the 7 habits of highly effective people, the 5 frameworks of highly happy people, making an argument about what happiness is and how we cultivate the conditions for that and why we should, particularly at a time that we're in right now. So I am going to be reading from the journals. I got about 10 pages worth of reading here, polish up those transcripts that turn the work that we're doing in small groups connected to this emerging framework for this happiness handbook, which follows this PERMA acronym. Today, I'm just looking at the entries that have to do with P, positive emotions. This is the first entry where this real inquiry began. I've been surprised at the force of this creative project, and how this, as soon as this happened, things got put into movement really fast. We have a community of learning that's linked below. Let's get started on this one. This is from Sunday, June 29th, and it is title, heading 3, The Happiness Habit. Write the book the world needs. Happiness, like success or love, grows the more you give it away. When you get a taste of success, you wonder, what else can I do? How much further could I take this? Just like that, happiness can beget more happiness. I'm excited to share some of the science and synchronicity around happiness, both mine from my favorite happiness heads through history, Epicurus and Aristotle in the West, Buddha and unnamed Taoist masters of the East, as well as the greatest modern happiness researchers from Harvard and other places that don't start with the letter H. Why me as an author? Why not me? I've always been a happy little hedgehog. We'll talk about set point shortly. And despite coming from what looks like a disadvantaged background, poor single mother, alcoholic father. I took my last name from my mother's side since I was born out of wedlock. I was surrounded by love. That love built my brain, and my brain built the sense that I could do anything I put my mind to. In my early 20s, I was finishing a philosophy degree, studying world religions, because I loved it. I lived in a 1-bedroom apartment with 2 other dudes, the basement of a hair salon with chatty Cathys getting primped upstairs from 9 to 5. Rent was $465 a month. This was 2002. We split it 3 ways and lived the dream. Those were happy times. Most all my times, actually, have been happy times, and not just because of my set point. Not because I've been like the oblivious protagonist in the excellent film Happy Go Lucky, who skips into an abandoned train yard at night because it's beautiful, completely unaware of the immense, stupid danger she's in. No, my times have been happy because I've prioritized presence, and because I care about doing what it takes to stay happy. You could say I've developed a habit. This happiness now, in my early 40s, is more enduring. It can withstand the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune. It gets by with less. It doesn't need to prove itself, justify itself, or explain itself. It's a full-bodied happiness, healthy and here to serve, here to help. Ignorance is not bliss. It may be comfortable to pretend that we won't suffer, won't get old, won't get sick, and won't die. But this unknowing is not bliss. The bliss of full-bodied happiness can only come through the opposite of ignorance, through knowing and illumination. Happiness comes from the knowledge of ourselves, knowledge of our works, and knowledge of the world. Happiness comes as the byproduct of a life well lived. You don't set out for an enjoyable life. You go for alignment, significance, and legacy, leaving behind what there is to leave behind and embracing what there is to embrace. Who there is to embrace as well. Learning about biology, sociology, science, and world religions can help us realize our own forms of embedded awareness, which is actually our own forms of embodied bliss. Another heading, happiness is a mirage, but the mirage is real. I know when you imagine a mirage, you see a promise on the horizon of delicious water that will satiate your thirst in a desert. Even though that mirage out there is not actually real, it has real effects on us if we believe that the mirage is real. So if we burn our leg muscles and expend our energy chasing a mirage that isn't actually there, the effect of that mirage has on us is real. So one of the themes we will be exploring in this book is our capacity to see through the mirages on the horizon, the things that look like if only we reached there, we would be happy, and take that attention, often also placed on other people. If only this person would act differently, then I would be happy. To take that attention back on ourselves and use that to strengthen our own muscles for this endurance race that we're running. Another heading, the misplaced mountain. Consider the story of the sage who lost his keys and was searching under the streetlight because that's where he could see. The keys are where you left them, not where there is light and not where you have eyes to see. If you think that getting the degree or the promotion or the partner, if you think that these will make you happy, you've misplaced your mountain. Sure, and of course, the degree, the promotion, the partner are great. They're impossibly important to who you are, but they're also fleeting. They don't matter nearly as much as we might think they do. Consider the monk who has nothing, but is happier than the homeowner who hurries around in haste to his happiness post at Harvard. This is why we speak of happiness as a habit. Reading this book will not make you happy. Finding the courage to discover who and what you are, where you are, and where you're going over and over and over again, maybe. There are no guarantees. But building yourself into the kind of person, keeping your friends, seeing their happiness as your own, that's a habit, and it's doable. So happiness isn't something that you get, it's something that you do. This book will show you how. This is not a one-size-fits-all approach. In fact, it's built for meaningful difference. But there are some universals here. Our embeddedness, our embodiedness, and our indebtedness to ourselves and to each other. Potentially also our ancestors. The early working title of the book I wanted to write was the Not Self-Help book, because a lot of the happiness help industry is woefully focused on the self. It's my happiness, for me. We'll find that happiness grows when it's shared, that it's a we thing, not just a me thing. There's an ethical dimension too. If my happiness comes at your expense, it's not the kind of happiness we're after. We want this project to be in service to the happiness of all beings, and we'll find the greatest happiness in helping others be happy, just as the greatest freedom is helping others get free. Let's go. Just note that that's going to transition into the East-West approach to happiness piece. And this is another one on P, positive emotions. P, positive emotions. From Monday, June 30th, 2025, 7:40 a.m. at home. Emotions move us. Move is emphasized. They are more than feelings then. Emotions propel, throw us into new possibilities for action. So before we go to positive emotions and create a plan to habituate the positive upward spiral of proportion, before we go to the positive emotions and create a plan to habituate that positive propulsion, the upward spiral that they bring, the opposite of positive emotions are not negative emotions, but destructive emotions. This means that it might help to make a distinction between how our emotional states can be positive / constructive, where they help us build a better life, and where they can be negative / destructive, where they tear down the roots of our happiness, where they discourage, disengage, sabotage our relationships, throw doubt on meaning, and undermine accomplishments. Two ways forward here, ancient and modern, and a good place to introduce the Buddhist psychological thread running through this work. Buddha was, after all, a physician of the human condition, and will be exploring the higher reaches of human potential with his teachings throughout. This also connects to Barbara Fredrickson's broaden and build approach to positive emotions. Contemporary research shows that positive emotions broaden our affordances and build our capacities for skillful action. In 2002, Daniel Goleman, an esteemed neuroscientist, published the book Destructive Emotions, presenting the findings of his time spent with the 14th Dalai Lama, Tenzin Gyatso. Goleman was repeatedly astonished at what a good scientific mind the Dalai Lama had. He was curious and rigorous, and he often said that if modern Western science finds something that contradicts with Buddhist teachings, then Buddhism will have to change accordingly. Buddhists make a couple of helpful distinctions here between wholesome and unwholesome emotions and between skillful and unskillful means. In brief, unwholesome emotions cause unnecessary distress and disease. Wholesome emotions reduce unnecessary distress and disease. Skillful means find ways to weaken pathways that give rise to unwholesome emotions and strengthen the pathways to the arising of wholesome emotions. In the Buddhist context, unwholesome emotions have a common ancestor, the delusional grasping at the kind of self that doesn't actually exist. It's a mirage. This delusional, narrow self-grasping, think of phones as a narrowing device, spawns two siblings, greed and hatred or aversion. In a delusional state, we go back and forth between gimme and gimme, I want, to ew, gross, ick, and the extreme hatred. This gets interesting now, and the nuance is worth it. Where do skillful and unskillful means fit in? In some ways, we are biologically wired to want this and not want that. The basic functions of a single-celled organisms, our deepest biological ancestors, was to go toward sources of food and go away from sources of danger. The same applies to our psychology. We want to go towards sources of psychological nourishment, the people, activities that nourish us, fill us up, and we want to get away from the sources of danger, energy vampires or worse, people who might want to use or exploit us in some way. For Buddhists, the path is to cultivate pathways to want wholesome things for the benefit of all beings. We practice loving kindness, for example, not just because we are nourished by it, but because it nourishes others too. This feels categorically different than the greediness of wanting your attention or the hatred of your work schedule. Loving kindness is wholesome. Greed is not. Loving kindness lessens the delusion of our separation from each other. Greed strengthens that delusion. Positive emotions then, or we'll say constructive emotions, liberate us from narrow selfish delusions and expand our capacity to engage with our work, relate to others, make meaning, and get shit done. They help us construct a life that matters to us and to others, helps us build frameworks that lead to a lasting legacy of love. Positive emotions move us in wholesome ways towards the undoing of the causes of unnecessary suffering and the realizing of higher human potential. You can take them to the bank. Considering psychological capital and theories and research, there's a different kind of FDIC. When you make a deposit in your psychological capital savings account, your deposit is insured by the FDIC, the faithful decision of integrated commitment. In a beautiful turn, you keep what you give away. Cultivating positive emotions is a habit. You are recognizing the ways to make those deposits, to share in the bounty of them, and they will be there for you when you need them. When you get withdrawn from the world, you can withdraw from your psychological capital account. As we go through, we will outline sections on hope, resilience, confidence, and practices like the gratitude journal, the gratitude letter, a contemporary awe practice, the 4 immeasurable states, the 7 factors of enlightenment, and the 5 hindrances that prevent enlightenment, with the assumption that these Eastern approaches are going to help us in our Western approach to happiness. In fact, we will find that emotions aren't actually mine or yours, they're ours. That's exactly what a surprising new field of research says in Bacha Mesquita's book, Between Us. As we go deeper into positive emotions, we're going to explore how they arise between us and our work to strengthen our sense that we exist in relationship, and wisdom is about the skill in our relationships with ourselves. Positive emotions that arise in the stories we tell ourselves, how we talk to ourselves, how we notice and be aware of our experience. The emotions between us, how our neurobiological systems and nervous systems are regulated or co-regulated or dysregulated, in large part based on how we were treated growing up, but also in the environments that we are in now. And also our relationship to our work, that if we are doing dehumanizing work, or work that we perceive to be dehumanizing, that can impact the quality of our positive emotions as well, and our existence. And also the sense of our relationship with the cosmos, with the mystery, with the reality of our death, that existential domain of our relationship. You could say that there's emotions that arise between us and the reality of our death. So there's a lot of traction here in seeing emotions rising between, and we're going to play with that as we go. And that puts us to book 2.